I want to look at James chapter 1 and just use it as a launching pad for the lesson. I've been thinking about this a lot lately, actually, this particular subject. And it's one that's kind of, I wouldn't say hard to receive, but it's just something that it's a lesson that's not one that's readily, it's not exciting to receive, I guess you could say. It's not a lesson that you like excited to receive, but once you get it, you understand its importance, and and you can appreciate it for what it is. You know what I mean? So I want to look at the lesson. Basically, is entitled "Trouble is Necessary." Trouble is necessary, and I was looking at James chapter 1, and I was just thinking. Well, I'll read the scripture, and then I'll just kind of talk about, kind of launch off where I was coming from. But James chapter 1, starting at verse 1, it says, James, a servant of God and of the Lord Jesus Christ, to the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad, greeting. It says, my brethren, count it all joy when you fall into divers temptations, knowing this, that the trying of your faith worketh patience. But let patience have her perfect work, that ye may be perfect and entire, wanting nothing. I was just thinking about that. He says, count it all joy when you fall into diverse temptations. I was taught this lesson before, something similar to it. Anyway, but I was just thinking about, I got some news about various things in the last several weeks about just different stuff, in different situations. And I was like, it's necessary in life to have tribulation. Yes. You know what I mean? Trouble. You can't grow without it. Ecclesiastes talks about it's better to be in the house of mourning. You know what I mean? Than be in mirth all the time, be happy all the time. And I thought about that. I kind of explored that in my mind. Because you have times in life when everything is going smooth and it's great and you're happy. Everything smiles. And it's like everything is real light and it's real smooth and it's simple. Then all of a sudden, something happened and then be like, dang, it's just like everything come like crumbling down. And sometimes you get to it's just like you almost get hit like Job, like back to back to back, and it just kind of like shake you down to the ground. And a lot of people look at Christianity as an out or an escape from trouble. You know what I mean? When people are initially, and I won't say all the time, but initially people look to God for an escape. They look at that whenever something's going wrong, they go, I want to go to church. Or I need to get closer to God, because they're looking for some way to escape their trouble. And then if they're not careful, once they become a Christian, if they obey the gospel, and trouble comes again, the Bible says that when trouble comes, they have no root, they wither. They fall apart. Because they were expecting that God was going to fix all their trouble, fix all their problems. That if you're a Christian or if you were God, then you don't have to worry about nothing because God got your back. And like everything, it will work out all right. But then when you look at the scripture and you read this, count it all joy when you fall into diverse temptations, you're like, you have to, when you look at Jesus' life, people look at Jesus and they see the pictures. You know what I mean? They see the pictures of Jesus, with his white, with his hair, flowing hair, and he's sitting down with his white robe with the children, with a smile on his face, with a fish in his hand. And like, that's the images that they see of Jesus. But when you read about Jesus for real, like Jesus' life wasn't very easy. Like it was kind of tough, kind of difficult. You know what I mean? Like to know, and okay. I do it like this. As a Christian, all of us are saints. When you know truth, you have a responsibility to truth. Yes. Truth enlightens. You know what I mean? But with that enlightenment comes a certain level of vexation. Because when you know better, then you are aware, you can see. Indeed. And then when you live in a world or you're around people that don't see, then you feel out of place. You see what I'm saying? You don't fit in anymore. I'm just speaking in general. Like, if you, like, if you're on a job, I'll use an example. You're on the job and everybody been doing something a certain way. But then there have been rules written in place that, the boss been treating people bad. You know what I mean? They just like, well, you got to have a job. It's part of the deal. But then you find out reading the manual that, hey, man, he's not supposed to be doing this. Then it's like, well, hey, man, you can't just do it, act any kind of way you want to act. That's not how the rules go. But then you approach manager with it, and they form a coalition against you and be like, well, we going to do this, that, and the other, and blah, 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 blah. You see what I'm saying? Now, life, they going to try to make your life much more difficult because of that understanding, because of that knowledge. They tell you, man, you don't tell nobody, okay, or they'll cut you a deal. Hey, we'll do this for you as long as you don't tell nobody else what's going on. And everybody else, you see everybody else struggling. You have truth, you have understanding, you've been enlightened on this information, and like, you got to make a decision what you're going to do with that. You're going to let all these cats get raked over the coals, knowing good and well that that's not the way it's supposed to be. You know what I mean? And so with Jesus is similar. That's the best example I can come up with right now. Like, Jesus is enlightened on what life really is. You're living in a society of people living in a fairy tale, or living under false tenses, so to speak. You know what I mean? Some people because they've just been deceived. Some people because they want to be deceived. And Jesus has an obligation from his Father to bring light, tell the truth, and the truth is not always received well, because, like I said, people like to live in darkness. People like to live in illusion. People like to think that if I had money, solved my problems. People like to think that if I have money, I'm somebody. They want to think that way. I'm just giving an example. When you understand better, like, man, money ain't everything. Money is a tool to be used, and that's it. It don't make you no better person. It don't make your life no better as far as, like, it solves all your trouble. It don't. People don't like to hear that because they want to chase riches. Yeah, exactly. They like to think that way. When you tell them otherwise, you ruin their life. Like, you ruin their pursuit. They don't. If I'm just chasing for money, and you telling me because money gonna solve all my problems, that gives me a drive, something to chase after. When you tell me money ain't gonna try to fix all your problems, don't tell me that, because you gonna mess me all up. Like, I ain't trying to hear all that. Like, get out of here with that. And so Jesus' life is not easy. And I went all the long way around to say that Jesus' life, it wasn't easy. You know what I mean? Having truth can be a burden sometimes, in a sense, because you have to do something with that truth, and people not always gonna respect or appreciate the truth that you have, and then at the end of all things, it got him killed. Now, of course, it's a part of God's plan, but God, that doesn't excuse and that doesn't take away the motive that people had to kill him. That makes sense? God had a plan for Jesus to die, but it doesn't excuse the way that the people had a motive to kill him, and they're going to be held accountable for that. Like, Joseph was sold into slavery, but that don't mean that his brothers get away with it because God meant it for good. You follow what I'm saying? They still meant it for bad when they did it. They weren't thinking like, well, let's accomplish God's will by selling Joseph. They did it because they going to make a quick dollar. They were going to kill him. And they were like, well, you know what? We can make some money off of him. Let's make some money off of him instead. Now, God knew how that thing was going to play out for good for Joseph, but they had no intentions. They wouldn't think about that at all. Their mindset was, let's make some money off our brother. You know what I mean? And so, the righteousness that Jesus holds it was the reason why he got killed, because the people were envious of him. They were envious of his truth. They were envious of the way he conducted himself, and they were envious of the way that the people received what he had to say. He threatened their livelihood and their position and status in the nation, and they wanted to get rid of him. That's what it was. I mean, and like the fact that people hate you for doing right, that's a tough situation to deal with. That's a tough pill. You know what I mean? And so you're going to always have trouble, and the Bible is clear. Though all those who live godly will suffer persecution. Yes. You got to understand like that. That's real. Yes. You have to be able to understand that. So I saw Sister Powell's hand and Sister Jefferson.
Yeah, I just want to touch on the beginning of what you started out with verse 2 of my brothers count it all joy when you fall into divers temptation. That itself is not acceptable to everybody, including Christians, because man looks at it if things got bad in his life, is what's the joy in that? What's the joy when I've wrecked my car and have no other means of getting another car, and then I go to work and they tell me I got 2 weeks before they have to let me go. What's the joy in all that? That's the way it actually is looked at. But then being that you are a carrier of the truth, that you're a vessel that holds the truth, you drink that differently than what an average person would do. Because as we live in this world today, and we can see that it's changing day by day, men are not jumping for joy to come to Christ. They're not. That is something that's not on the to-do list. And falling into any type of temptations, that alone itself brings about a disgust to most men, most women, because I don't have time for it, as they would say. I don't have time for it because I'm living my life. And Christ is not a part of that life. And for me to make him a part of my life, that's going to take away a lot of things. Although he suffered for me, I can't counteract. I can't. As they would say, I can't bid any higher because I'm not ready to live that life. I have the truth. I'm a vessel with the truth, but yet I'm not ready to drink the truth. I walk around with the title, but I'm not ready to drink the truth, because if I drink the truth, that means I have to live differently. I have to think differently. I have to act and walk differently if I start to drink the truth. So us having the truth in hand and living differently is like Christ. It's like many things that you were saying as far as the things that he suffered. He suffered a whole lot of things, and he knew he had to suffer. And he didn't want to suffer, because when he looked at it, like, for them, are you serious? I mean, I'm paraphrasing this, of course. Are you serious? And you look at it even to this day. Suffering for us the way we live today. Men have not gotten on the train of I'm going to live for Christ. Over in verse 12 it says, blessed is the man that endured temptation. Now here again, we being the ones that have have the truth, and being the vessel, we have to endure what comes before us, but we endure it because of Christ, because he paved the way of endurance, because he went through so much for us. And this that we go through is very little, very nonchalant. It's something that's going to pass. Just as winter comes, summer is going to come. Just as fall comes, spring is going to come. It's like trouble is coming. It's inevitable. It's going to happen. But it's the attitude of Christianity that you take with it in this trouble, because accepting the fact that yes, children may act crazy, wife may leave you, husband may leave you, job may fire you, car get wrecked. So all this stuff, it's life. Just life moving on. But because Christ has paved the way for us, that we look at this stuff as it's a blessing from God to have, but we're looking forward to a better blessing. We're looking forward to that covenant of promise that he gave to us as to carrying the truth, living the truth. That's one thing we have to keep in mind. We must live the truth, not speak it. Live the truth, because that's the only way that we'll see Christ and the Father, is that we have to do the what I don't want to do, and that is to count it all joy when I fall into diverse temptation. I have to look beyond that temptation.
Amen.
Yeah, I just want to say quickly, when you mentioned about Joseph, how he was sold into slavery by his brothers, and thinking about God knows the end. He say at the end, it says you meant it for evil, but God turned it into good. And that's the beauty about God and his plan and his will for life, is that it doesn't matter what you formulate in your mind to do this evil. Sometimes it may take a longer time to get where you're going, but in the end, it's still all worked out just as God would have had it to be in the beginning.
Fletcher.
And piggybacking on with Sister Faye, one thing about trouble is omniscient. It knows where to go, how to go, when to go, how long to stay there. But God is also omniscient. So when you're going through these troubles, you got to remember, you got a power with you. If you that vessel that we've been talking about all morning. I've been struggling with some things lately. And I remember, suffer as a Christian. Suffer my little children not to be so. You know, I just keep thinking of all those things. You know, darts just keep throwing at me at work. And a lady came to me, the nurse, she said, you must be something special because you can always just smile. I said, when you have a power with you, you can do that.
Amen.
You know, I have to teach myself when I'm going through the highways. So these kids, they're a new breed. And, you know, we have to remember who we are and why we are. So when this trouble come up, when these trials come up and everything about talking about this morning, we can get through it and we can do it to the glory of God.
Amen. Amen.
God bless you. And with that point being made, I look at 2 Corinthians chapter 12. I want to look at verse 6, and and this kind of going into kind of what my thought process as far as when I was looking at this lesson. I was just thinking about like, I think Lanelsi was a little sick at the time. One of the other children was sick. Some other stuff was going on at the time. It was just a lot of little small little things that was going on. I was just like, and then I had to work some extra hours, and it was just like a whole bunch of stuff that was going on. I was just tired, you know what I mean? And I was just like, I got some news about some other people, some stuff that was going on. And I was like, trouble is necessary.
Yes.
I was like, because it's through trouble, like when things are going great, like time is passing. And like you just kind of like living and everything's great. And like you just, you just moving along. But then trouble coming in and stop you. You know what I mean? And then you have to think. You have to like slow down and like think. Then you start to be able, you can start realizing and seeing like what's important and what's not important. You know what I mean? Because when trouble trouble come and land on your porch, like to say it leave when the water leave. You can't tell it, hey, shoot, get out of here. It go with it go with where the water go. It's funny. I'm not afraid of a lot of things, but for some reason or another, I'm afraid of possums. And like, hey man, listen, man. I was walking one day at night. This is where it started. I'm real quick. I was walking one day at night with my dog, and we was rocking or whatever. And he was a puppy, so I let him chase after cats because he couldn't catch him anyway. It was a good exercise for him. And so he runs. All of a sudden, like I saw that cat. I was like, "Go get him!" He runs, and the thing stopped. And I was like, "Oh snap!" So I went to go chase him down to make sure he don't get scratched all up. Because actually, he was like 4 months. He wasn't gonna do nothing anyway. And then I ran up, and the thing like. And looked at me, and I looked into the depth of his eyes. He looked into my eyes, and I saw the gates of Hades. And I looked into his eyes. His tail whipping over the other time. I was just like, for some reason, man, it just froze in our tracks, man. I was like, yeah, his teeth is all terrible. He was a big joker too. And I said, man, I crazy. That just got me. So anyway, trouble don't leave when you want it to leave. Okay. I was going to go to work one day in the morning. I was going to go to UPS. And for some reason, Nelsie was up that morning too. So I guess she woke up and I was like, all right, babe, I'm going to go. Okay, bye. I open the door. And I step out and somebody left one of the trash cans right in front of the door. So I walk out and I see this big joker on his hind legs trying to get in the thing. That thing probably about this tall. I'm sitting there, so the Nelsie walking me to the door. I was like, I'm gonna go. I stopped. She's like, what's wrong? I'm like, it's a possum. Oh, goodness gracious. So it's looking in the trash, I guess, looking to see what kind of meal he can find. Then he I was like, and it's so crazy because I can feel like the tension in my chest. I was like, so it jumped down and then it walked around. So my car in the driveway, the van is parked close to the house and my car is on the other side. So he walked around the other side of the thing. I'm like, I have no visual on him. I don't know where he at, man. So I'm like, should I call him to work? It's serious, man. It's serious. If it's been a dog or something, I'll be like, I ain't tripping. I go out there with whatever. Like, yeah. And I was like, I can't ask a Nelsie to go find it, because that just wouldn't work. You know? So I was like, man. So it was like, you gotta go to work. And I was like, nah, I'm gonna call in. You gonna try to call in? I'm like, I can't call in, man. How am I explain that? I can't lie. And I can't be like, man, I can't come in because I'm positive outside. Yeah. so then I was like, man, for let this thing. So I had to pump myself up. Man, for let this thing punk me in here, man. I better go to work. So I was like, all right, I'm finna go. Bye. I walk out the door. Hi, Stephenson. He's not ready to jump into my vehicle. Both feet at the same time. All right, that shit. If you asked about that, she did that to tickle her. She's to this day she tells you that. She called that story toy soldier. No, but that thing was there. He wasn't going nowhere, and I was just stuck. I was like, oh my goodness, you know. And that's how trouble is. They go where they want to go. You can't stop it. You can tell, she'll get out of here. And that day, I'm just trying to find my meal. You just relax right there, and I'll leave it. But then I had no choice but to stand down. And now I got time to think and just kind of contemplate and whatever. Trouble works the same way. It makes you stop and it makes you slow down and think. You know what I mean? And to meditate in the process. You know, when it humbles you. It causes you to like, because things may have been going great. You may have been feeling yourself. You may be, I'm great. I'm, whatever, or like things are working, whatever, like everything you touching is working great, and like you thinking like you start to get beside yourself, because the Bible talks about when God let the children of Israel into the promised land. He told us like, get there, you have all these houses built already, these fields are already paid. I said, you got animals, you got all these things in there. Listen, when you get here and this land is good, don't think that you did this yourself. Don't forget that I gave you this, because it's so easy to go out there. You get there first. Yes, thank you, Father. Thank you, God. Weeks go by, a couple of months or whatever, and you out there picking trees off, and whatever. And you come in the house, you chilling. The breeze is good, and you start to thinking like, man, I got it going on. Like, man, we balling out here. You know what I mean? And it's like you forget that God blessed you with this. Exactly. You start thinking like, cause you gonna go out there, and even though you got there, the field was planted. You still gonna have to cultivate the field. You still got to keep it up. Indeed. So there's some labor that you're gonna have to put into it. The houses that are built, you gonna have to try to maintain and keep them in order. You know what I mean? So you may start feeling like, man, look at this field. Oh, I worked hard. It's look good though, ain't it? Looking good. That house is nice. You may make some upgrades, but you forgot that you were blessed with all of this. Like when you came into this situation, you were blessed with all of this. You know what I mean? Whatever little minimum labor that you put into it, like God blessed you with this. And so when trouble comes, it depending on how heavy it is or whatever the situation is, it's gonna sit there. It may pop you in the mouth. You know what I mean? you go and you have time to think, and therein is a blessing. Because like I said, it humbles you. It causes you to understand your position in life, understand your position in the world. Understand your position in God's plan. You know what I mean? Understand, you see God's power versus your own. And that's a blessing. Because one thing you have to understand, like, you're not God. You don't control nothing.
Right.
We make plans, and we try to execute plans, and sometimes they come to fruition, so we start to thinking like, I'm wise, I'm smart. Like, I can make things happen. But you don't control nothing. All it takes, somebody gets sick, and it's like, now you at God's mercy. I gotta pray. And not to necessarily say like that you some type of like that you have bad intentions, but like all that you can do is pray. You can't fix that person. You can't fix the problem. You know. I see a hand. I'm going to read the scripture and I'm going to come right to you. 2 Corinthians chapter 12 and starting at verse 6, it says, "For though I would desire to glory, I shall not be a fool. For I will say the truth. For now I forbear, lest any man should think of me above that which he seeth me to be, or that he heareth of me. And lest, I should be exalted above measure through the abundance of the revelations. There was given to me a thorn in the flesh, the messenger of Satan to buffet me, lest I should be exalted above measure. For this thing I besought the Lord thrice, that he may depart from me. And he said unto me, My grace is sufficient for thee, for my strength is made perfect in weakness. Most gladly, therefore, will I rather glory in my infirmity, that the power of Christ may rest upon me. Therefore I take pleasure in infirmities, and reproaches, and necessities, and persecutions, and distresses for Christ's sake. For when I am weak, then I am strong." And that's the point that he's making. Paul has been gifted all these gifts. Revelation. He can work miracles. He can heal. He can speak in tongues. Like all these gifts that he's been given from God. You know, just amongst men, he's special amongst men because all the other cats can't do what he do. Some other people have certain gifts, but he can manifest all of them. You know what I mean? And that's what he's saying. He's saying, lest he be exalted to this abundance of revelations, like this knowledge that he's been given, this understanding he's been given. It's easy for a cat to start, like people ask you questions and you giving off information. People don't, Paul, what about this? What about that? And you giving them information. And Paul is a bad boy. You know what I mean? And you start thinking, and then it is coming from your mouth. You are the one that's saying it. You're the one that's writing it. And you start thinking like, yeah, God is giving me grudge favor. She's chosen me for a great work, and I am blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? And he says, God gave me a thorn in the flesh. So that situation, when it hit him, it put him back on his backside. And now you got to like, okay, and I asked God 3 times about it, man, remove this for me. It's giving me trouble. It's hard for me. And that's one thing I want to talk about with trouble. Trouble's not easy. When we say count it all joy, and it's like you should appreciate trouble. It's not that trouble, you can't look at trouble and be like, trouble is great. I welcome all troubles in my life. Like, no, trouble is not cool. Like, if somebody's sick, they're legitimately sick. If somebody die, you're legitimately sad about it. Or if they're dying, you got to watch them die. That's tough. It hurts your feelings. Like, you really shedding tears over it. You praying to God about it, asking, can God rescue? And sometimes the answer is no. And then you got to watch this person you love slip away. That's hard. If you got into a car wreck and your car got totaled and you don't know no other way to get it fixed, that's hard. Because now you're trying to figure out how I'm going to move around, how I'm going to get around, how I'm going to do. I got to go to work. People, depend on me, blah, 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 blah. It's a mega inconvenience. Like, so trouble is not some type of thing you can be like, hey, wonderful. It's like, trouble has entered my life. Like, it's not like that. You got to endure it. Like, Jesus was sad in the garden. Legitimately. Jesus knows what's to come. But that don't mean that he's like, it's going to be great that people are going to be spitting in my face and whooping me on my back and hitting me in my head. Like, it still hurt when you get hit in the head with a rod. When you start across the tree and you're getting whooped in your back, it hurts. It's not like you can be like, wow, yes! Like, it's pain. You know what I mean? Like, when you're trying to do right and people are constantly talking bad about you and, like, treating you wrong, it's not cool. It's not something that's like, because especially when your heart is right. Because see, in Christianity, and I'm coming your way, in Christianity, we teach truth. You see what I'm saying? And we oppose error. But we do it from a spirit of love. And therein lies the difficulty. Because when you tell somebody the truth, your intentions are supposed to be to help that person. I'm not telling. It's easy to tell somebody the truth and debate with somebody because you're right and they wrong. So you argue with them because you're trying to prove that I'm right and you're wrong. That's easy because that's glory for you. It's glory for you to be able to say, No, you're wrong. There's only one church because da 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 da. See, you don't know what you're talking about. That's easy, especially when you've been given truth, because you dismantle them like a child. They don't have no tools to fight against you, and you just strip them naked. That's simple. But when you do it from a place that I'm trying to help you, and that's sincerely my desire, because I just want you to be saved, and they turn around and rend you, and they bite you, that's hard. That's difficult. Because I want good for you. I don't want bad for you. And why do you want bad for me? Like, why do you hate me? Why you treat me like that? Like, I'm trying to help you. You know? And that has to constantly be your desire, is to help people. And you have to constantly wear your heart on your sleeve to, like, help. And I'm just telling you the truth, not to make you angry. I'm not trying to hurt your feelings. I'm trying to help you so that you can see, so you can be saved, so that your life can be better. And they turn around and talk about you like you got to tell, and they get together and they laugh and giggle and whatever and sniggle. And then you got to maintain the right heart. You can't go dark and be like, start trying to guard your heart. And I'm gonna tell you the truth. I don't care whether you live or die. We can't take that mentality. We got to always maintain a heart of love. Now that doesn't mean that reproach and all those things are necessary. You have to rebuke people, but even that's done in love, though. It's not done because I'm mad at you and I'm just going to say, well, you're going to die and go to hell anyway. Like, that's not the spirit. That's not the spirit we get from the Father. It's not what it is. You know what I mean? It's always in a hope that people will change. Because just like God, people curse God all the time in their words and in their actions. You know what I mean? But God is always willing to forgive. God is always willing to accept repentance if a person is willing to repent and bring them in and act like, I don't hold it. God ain't petty. Yeah, I'll forgive you, but I remember what you said to me that time. God don't do that. God is like, well, come on, come in. You see what I'm saying? That's what God is. And if you're willing to change, then I'm willing to receive, and we're going to wash it under the table, and it's over. All that you did, whatever you did, I ain't tripping about it, And so we have to have that same mentality, So, Sister Powers, thank you for your patience.
See if I can go back here. We talking about trouble. Trouble brings about patience. And I think of Job when I'm saying this because of all the trouble that was sitting on his doorstep. And all of that, his attitude. And that's one of the things that we have to keep in mind as Christians. The attitude that we have when trouble does come about. We have to know that what is in front of us, like Sister Tribina says, and you yourself said, some things we'll never be able to change. When trouble comes, it just comes, And here, looking at Job, when he got all the news about his family, he couldn't change it. He couldn't bring any of them back. But then his attitude of verse 20 says, then Job arose and rent his, Job chapter 1, verse 20. Then Job arose and rent his mantle and shaved his head and fell down upon the ground and he worshiped God. When trouble comes, our worship should not change. Our attitude should not change. It should just continually move forward, because that trouble that comes to us, it does make us stop, like you say. Stop, and you have to think. Now, where do I go from here? What do I do? My motto for this year is keep moving forward. No matter what comes in your path, just keep moving forward. Because as long as you're on the straight and narrow, just keep moving forward. Looking to the left, to the right, trying to come up with your own ideas and what have you, might not be the best thing for you. Especially sometimes, like we say, when trouble hit. Sometimes that trouble comes to us so that we can be humbled. So that we can stop and breathe and smell the roses, as we say, and so that we can take the time out to know that patience is something that we need to go through this trouble with. And then again, when Job's wife got enough of the trouble herself, and she says what she said, and Job had to correct her and say, but he said in verse 10 of chapter 2, but he said unto her, thou speakest as one of the foolish women speak. What? Shall we receive good at God's hand, and shall we not receive evil? In all the days Job didn't sin with his lips. Again, trouble. Shall we not receive trouble? It comes to us just like it comes to the world. It's the attitude of how we receive it and what we're being taught of it. Because, and of course, that's my personal belief, that when we do have trouble come in our life, it is adjusting us. It's aligning us. It's getting us ready. Because in order to see Christ, we got to be right. We got to be straight, and we got to go through something to get to him. Our lives are not beds of roses. They don't smell good all the time. Things just go on in our lives, but then that patience that come along with when trouble does hit, it, like you said, it makes us stop. It makes us stop and have that patience that we need to move forward, because that's the only way. That's the only way we're gonna make it in life. Is we have to practice patience along with that trouble that comes.
And I just wanted to concur with all that's been said. And I wanted to say trials and tribulations and temptations and troubles, they're all for our good if we stick with Christ. I love this scripture, Romans 8:28. And we know that all things, because we started off with count it all joy when you fall into divers temptation. But look at Romans 8:28, which we all know. And we know that all things work together for good. Murder is not good to me. Rape is not good. Incest, being mistreated, none of that is good to me. But it says, and we know that all things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are called according to his purpose. So when these trials and tribulations come and we hold on to God's unchanging hand, it strengthens us. And it allows us, it's for our good that this comes into our lives, because the potter has, what's the word I'm looking for? The potter has over the clay. The potter has the word, yes, the word just escaped out of my mind. That's what happens to you when you become a senior. I mean, the word just went out of my mind. But the potter has power over the clay. So it works to our good, but to God's glory. And when we read on, it says, for whom he did foreknow, he also did predestinate to be conformed to the image of his Son, that he might be the firstborn among brethren. Moreover, whom he did predestinate, them he also called. And whom he called, then he also justified. And whom he justified, then he also glorified. Amen. What shall we say to these things? If God be for us, who can be against us? It's for our good and his glory. He that spared not his own Son, but delivered him up for us all, how shall he not with him also freely give us all things? Who shall lay anything to the charge of God's elect? It is God that justifies. So that's why we can count it all joy, because when these things, the potter is shaping the clay. And he's allowing things, and it's for our good, molding. That's right, molding. The potter is molding the clay, and we are the clay. But it's to our good, because there are things that I can personally say that I have been through, that I know it wasn't nobody but God that brought me through it. So he gonna get the glory. But it was for my good to let me know whatever comes at you, I'll take you through it. But you got to stay with me. See, it's always with as Christians, Christ does his part. We've got to do our part. Christ will never leave us. We leave him. But he said in his word, he'll never leave us. So it's for when these trials and these temptations, and learn from it, grow from it. And that's another thing God demands of us, is growth. He doesn't want us to continue to stay milk babies. He wants us to grow, because there's more things that he wants from us. It's more work that needs to be done. And we're here for God's glory.
I wanted to piggyback off of Sister Carr about walking by faith. We should do it all the time, of course, but we don't. We find ourselves working, doing whatever we have to do, and we forget about that. But when trouble comes, you may have to be reminded to continue to walk by faith. And I think that's what you're saying, that we should be walking by faith all along, and when trouble comes, we can find that faith and get through it. Like she said, the Bible says that all good things happen for the good of God, or for those who love God. I'm paraphrasing that. But I have to remind myself of that too. And I just can tell you about one incident the other day with my godson. He's always got trouble, always. Of course, he calls me. His mom died when he was in the 7th grade. And he was saying that his birthday was coming up on the 19th, and that his car was in the shop. I kind of helped him rent a car for a few days. He was trying to just rent it for 1 or 2 days, and then it went to 3 days. So he had to have the money to pay for his car. Then he had to have the money to pay for his rental, because I said I can't give no more, But and then I had to remind him. He said, what are you fretting about? I said, where's your faith? I said, everything's going to work out. Don't you know that? And I told him that. And guess what? A couple of days later, he called me. I got my car out. I took the other car back. And I'm saying, see what happens when you have faith. So that's just what I want to interject and just reinforce the fact. It all works out.
Indeed. I want to look at Romans chapter 5. Romans chapter 5, start at verse 1, right along the same lines. It says, therefore, being justified by faith, we have peace with God through our Lord Jesus Christ, by whom also we have access by faith into this grace wherein we stand, and rejoice in hope of the glory of God. He says, and not only so, but we glory in tribulation also, knowing that tribulation worketh patience, and patience experience, and experience hope. And hope maketh not ashamed, because the love of God is shed abroad in our hearts by the Holy Ghost, which is given to us. And so we talked about patience bringing forth experience. And that's kind of one of the points that were made. And I'm gonna go to my final point here in Job, and we're gonna be done. The formula or the formula or the pattern doesn't change. It's the same thing over and over again. It's different tribulations and troubles that you face, but the formula to overcome is the same. It's just you have to trust and believe and endure. That's it. It's that's the reason why Jesus was upset with Peter when he came on the water, and then he saw during the storm, and he looked around and he failed. It's because he's like, oh, you have little faith, because the expectation is that you're supposed to believe me. Yes. You see what I'm saying? Like we've come this far, and you still don't believe in who I am and what I can do, and that's why God looks at us like you start off as a child in the kingdom. You go through things, you grow in faith. But you should start to, you have to learn patience to be able to wait through trouble. Yes. Then you get through it. And you say, man, God brought me through. But the thing, after a while, you should be experiencing these things. As we said, patience brought experience. You should, and it's just a trustiness. You should have experience in these things, or you don't fall apart every time something come your way. Because we've been here before. Like you've done this before. You've had trouble happen, and God rescued. See, the problem with the people is that sometimes you go through something or something happens, you pray to God about it, and the answer is no. That's what shake people. Amen. Because it don't turn out the way you wanted it to, and then you be like, well then, God don't always have your back. Or however people take it, that's the problem. So then it's like, well, I'm not sure how the situation is going to play out, so I don't know if I should trust or not or whatever. Because then what's the point of prayer and all this kind of stuff? That's what gets people in trouble. But what you have to understand, what patience is not only patience during the trouble that you're having today, but it's patience through life overall. You have to be patient and wait on God to give you answers, to help you see, to help you understand, to prune you and to prove you and to prepare you. Because something may happen this year, and it may take till next year for you to really see how that situation played out, or what the purpose of that situation was, or how it developed you, or how it helped you. If you went 1 month, and if it takes a year for you to understand fully the situation, and you went 1 month afterwards, like that situation was shot, like it was, you know, like God did me dirty. You know what I mean? Then like you weren't patient enough to let the situation settle. If that makes sense. That makes sense? I hope so. You have to develop experience. You should become experienced. As Sister Carl was saying, you grow, you develop. You shouldn't be a child anymore. You should understand like how the situation plays. That at the end of the day, God knows best. We say it all the time, but you have to know that. Not just I believe it or I say it, but you have to know that. That like when God tells you to do something, that's the right. It's right. If the situation works out, then that's the way that God intended for it to work out, and it's for my best. It's what's best for me. You know what I mean? And like it may not necessarily be best for me in a sense of personally or what I personally wanted, but it's best for overall for the kingdom and everything else is involved. The Bible talks about in Hebrews chapter 5, it talks about Jesus. And well, we can just read it. I don't even want to paraphrase it. We can read it. Hebrews chapter 5, and we're going to wrap this thing up here in a second. Hebrews chapter 5 and verse 8. He says that though he were a son, he yet learned he obedience by the things which he suffered. And being made perfect, he became the author of eternal salvation to all them that obey him. And so, you know, and in another place, he talks about that's in Hebrews. Goodness gracious, it's slipping my mind. But it's talking about that he is a succorer. He's a succorer unto us, a helper unto us. Yes. You know what I mean? Understanding our tribulation, the things that we're going through. And because of the things he went through, he's able to help us go through the things that we're going through. I'm paraphrasing. It's in chapter 4 or chapter. It's in chapter 4, verse 14. Seeing then that we have a great high priest that is passed into the heavens, verse 14. Jesus, the Son of God, let us hold fast our profession. For we have not a high priest which cannot be touched with the infirmities of feelings of our infirmities, but was in all points tempted like as we are, yet without sin. And so he understands our tribulation. So he had to go through things in order for him to be able to help us. You see what I'm saying? And so even though he himself had to go through the situation and he had to feel the pain, it was necessary. It was for the good. So like our parent may be sick. We may pray to God, man, please, heal them. We don't want to see them die. They die anyway. It hurts. It hurts bad. But you have to be able to experience that level of pain so that you can help your brothers and sisters. And that may be the key. Like the reality is that all of us are going to die one day. And sometimes we have to wake up as saints and understand that. I'm not knocking prayer for people that you love, and I'm not downplaying the pain that's associated either. But we have to understand like there is an end to this life, and the people that we love are going to pass away one day. And like sometimes we may pray to God like, Father, please save them, because we want them around. But sometimes the answers, they got to go, because this life has to end. Eventually the answer is going to be no. They got to come home, and we have to understand that. Yes. You know what I mean? And that situation, that pain that you feel, it's going to come a time where a saint going to come to you and they facing the same situation. Maybe not their parent, maybe their child, maybe their husband, maybe their brother, their friend, whatever. And they down in the dumps and they just like, I just feel. And you can say, man, listen, I understand how you feel. I've been there. You see what I'm saying? I understand that pain. You know what I mean? And it's because God let you go through this situation so you can help. Exactly. Like, you know what I mean? Like and so you have to understand everything works together, as the sister pointed. Everything works together for the good for them that love God and that do His will. That's what it is. And so with patience, that's a part of that patience. You have to understand the situation I go through. It may not all necessarily be about me. It may be for somebody else. It may be preparing me to help somebody else. You know what I mean? All those, because God knows what He's doing. We're just players in the game. Yes. But it's God the one that's orchestrating the game. We have to, and through experience, we need to understand that like God knows what He's doing. Stop questioning Him. Stop trying to second guess Him and ask Him why all the time. Like your children. You going somewhere? You know where we're going. Where are we going? Why? Hey man, sit down, relax. Just chill. Exactly. I got it. You know. Or sometimes you have somebody in the passenger seat as you're driving. They're like, hey, slow down. Wait, no. Be careful. Did you see that? Like, man, go to sleep. They mean good, though. It's like, man, I got this, man. Relax. Right.
Hey, brother, I don't know if you read this scripture. I think you read another one similar to this one, but I think that you were talking about this one. Hebrews 5 and 8. It says, though he were a son, yet learned he the obedience by the things which he suffered. And so I just think about it, since I got the mic, I was bringing up the scripture, but you got to be mindful, and I say this to myself, as I'm saying to you all, you got to be mindful of who we are. Because when those times come, that's the opportunity to glorify God and not glorify the flesh in whatever type of situation it may be, And I blame myself sometimes and not thinking, thinking as a fleshly human being and not a spiritual man, try to save the soul of the other party or whoever the case might be that is trying to cause you to suffer. To bless them, to bless them in that instance. I always say, you pass from life to death when you can bless your enemy. The one who tries to, from death to life. The one who tries to use you, and tries to benefit from you, and to lash out at you because that's the way of the world. It's just to be angry at anybody and everybody. It's not the way that God has taught us to live. And so, just be mindful.
Man, final scripture I want to look at is Hebrews chapter 40. And we were talking about Job, and anytime you talk about trouble and overcoming trouble, Job is pretty much gonna come up. But one thing I looked at with this lesson, or just looking at Job at all, he starts out well, but it's the grind of the situation that wore him down. You know what I mean? And like you have to learn from that. You know what I mean? Because and Job learned from it. You know what I mean? Because he got so caught up in trying to defend himself and defend the accusations that his friends are bringing at him that you must be doing something wrong if you got all this stuff going on. Like, no, I ain't done nothing wrong. And then you start feeling like a victim, and that God is doing you dirty. And then you start saying, I got some questions for God. That's what got him in trouble. And so Job chapter 40, God enters the scene on 30 and 38. Now he's been talking 38, 39, and he starts off in 40. Job 40 and 1. It says, moreover, the Lord answered Job and said, Shall he that contended with the Almighty instruct him? He that reproved God, let him answer it. So he's saying, you don't talk. You just say a lot of stuff now. Come on to the table. Let me know. You finna tell me something. Come tell me something. Verse 3. Then Job answered the Lord and said, Behold, I am vile. What shall I answer thee? I will lay my hand upon my mouth. Once I have spoken, but I will not answer. Yea, twice, but I will proceed no further. And so Job stopped. And now, because see, all this stuff been going on. His friends come, they accusing him. He started trying to defend, and it's like like I said, that's just overall synopsis of the book. Then he started feeling some type of way. He's like, man, I got done dirty. I've been doing right, and now, I haven't looked at no women. I ain't done nobody dirty. I ain't trying to take advantage of nobody. And all this stuff is happening to me. I'm gonna ask God, like, why is it that people are born? Like, why is the point of trying to do right? Like, why? And then he started getting beside himself. Elihu tried to come and check him, like, hey man, listen, y'all need to chill out with all this stuff, what y'all doing. He gave some lips to Elihu. And then God come walking out and say, boom, boom, big boots. You know what I mean? It was like, hey, now I got some stuff I need to talk to you about. Where were you when? And all of a sudden, and here we go. And it's like, yeah, it is, man. And when you read that, when you read that lesson, it's so important that you read this lesson. When you're reading Job, that you that you understand where Job is coming from. Not that you agree, but you understand where Job is coming from as far as the pressure that he felt, because you're going to feel that pressure.
He's right.
Because Job is a good man. That's what God has already given him a stamp of approval, man. Ain't no man like Job on the earth. Job is so, and so when you see Job flip the script like that, you got to look at why he did that. Study that. Look at that. What happened? What's going on? What they hitting him with? And then you understand the stuff that Job was saying, because all of us will feel that way at some point. You just have to learn how to. You need to learn the lesson that Job learned at the end before you go through it, so you don't make the same mistake Job did.
That's right.
Because amen. Before you start thinking this stuff, because it's so easy to be like, man, I'm trying to do right, and like all this bad stuff keep happening to me, and like people gonna come and accuse you and say all this crazy stuff about you, and like they waiting for you to see you fall, and it's like you have to be careful not to get beside yourself and be like, man, you know, I'm trying to do right, but like it seems like stuff like I can't, you know, whatever, I can't get together, like, you know, like it's, you know, like what's the purpose of doing right? Cats are asking them kind of questions in their head. You know what I mean? Like, what's the benefit? Da 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 da. You know, why did God do da 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 da? You see what I'm saying? And so when you read this lesson and you see what God has to say to Job, it helps you to understand your position. That's what I'm saying. That's what trouble does. It helps you understand your position in life. Not only in life, but in creation. Like, dude, you small. You're just a piece, speck on the thing. You have no. It's so much that you don't know, and it's so much that you will never know, because you ain't God. You ain't built for it. You here for a small, brief time, and then you gone, and somebody else gonna be on earth to take your spot as far as the place that you walk around on. You know, I ain't well. I'm real quick. People die. They have things when they leave though. And somebody else gonna take that stuff. You see what I'm saying? You have a house that you were living in, neighborhood that you were living in, people knew you, and then you pass away and somebody else move into that house.
Right.
And they don't know you. Me and others were talking about that. They don't know you. They see the stuff that you had in the house. If nobody came and claimed it, and they'll box all that stuff up and put it on the corner, on the curb, and let heavy trash pick it up. Because they don't care about the memories that you had. You're gone.
That's right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like they gonna walk around the same street that you was walking around. People say hello. Somebody else gonna they not even thinking about what you did there. They gonna occupy your space, or at your job, the spot that you used to have. They gonna hire somebody else to do that job now. You see what I'm saying? Like anything that you left behind or anything that you left undone, somebody else gonna pick it up again. Like. You gonna be removed from existence as far as memory on the earth, and then somebody else is gonna be occupying your space, you know. And so, when God says, "Where were you when I created the foundation?" Like Job wasn't around. Job don't exist, and the earth gonna be around much longer after Job is gone. And when God decides to destroy the earth, it's when God decided to, not because any of us decide to. Like you ain't got no control, you ain't got no power, you don't run nothing.
Right.
So don't run up on me talking about what you gonna ask me. You don't know nothing. And so you have to learn that lesson when he says he's gonna put his hand over his mouth. When you have, and that's one of the blessings of trouble, and that's what Job found. Job found some trouble. It is God-sized trouble. and he had to sit his butt down and put his hand over his mouth. And that God said, okay, now you want to talk? Now talk to me. I'm not gonna say nothing. I said something once. I'm not gonna say nothing again. And he just sit there and be quiet because he learned.
That's right.
I need to chill out. I got a little too big for my britches,
Amen.
and I'm tripping. Job is a great man. Don't get it twisted. God says, man, ain't no man like him. You know what I mean? He has a great heart toward God. He displayed it in the first few chapters, but he got beside himself. He got a little too big for his britches, and God had to check him real quick. And so we have to learn that lesson. When you have trouble in life, it's an opportunity for you to reassess. Too much good is not all, like too much good can get you in trouble. You know what I mean? Like if you got everything working your way, it's so easy to slip, like we talking about, just kind of recapping what we already discussed. It's so easy to slip off and be like, I'm me. You know, exactly. You start feeling like I start buying stuff. That's why riches can be dangerous. Because like people treat you a certain way when you got money. You know what I mean? When you need something, you just go buy it. You know what I mean? If it's everything from in the world got a cost to a certain extent, as far as tangible things. You know what I mean? I got a hole in my jacket, I'll go buy another one. I like my t-shirts real nice and clean. So then I wear it twice and I throw it away and I get another one. Other cats are wear that joke and try to put bleach and everything on to get white. And another cat, he wear it, I like it to be real nice and thick and soft. So I wear it twice, and once it get a little ball on it, it's gone. You know what I mean? I'll get another pair. I see it. Once it got I don't like my shoes with a crease in it. You wear it 2 times, it got a crease in it, you throw them away and then go get you another pair. You start living like that, it's like everything got to be the way that I want it to be. And then I control my world. Like, you know what I mean? You start getting used to that. And then after a while, and it's all it takes is one little thing to be, money can't help you with. And then they put you back on your backside, and you got to sit there and think. Now, if you're a saint, that's a blessing, because you can think about, okay, keep me focused. It keep me focused. It keep me humble. It keep me in a position I need to be in order to make it. If I get beside myself, I can't make it like that. You know. So that's all that I have as far as the lesson is concerned. I know we kind of far spent. I know I got 2 hands, and then we're gonna be dismissed.
I don't even know. You just reminded me of that play I was going to say. Your arms are too short to box with God.
Very profound. Give us a prayer when you finish, too, my brother.
Yes, I just want to look at Ezekiel chapter 28.
Yep.
Ezekiel chapter 28 dealing with Tyre, Prince of Tyre. And in verse 1 is where God begins to give details concerning the Prince of Tyrus. It says, the word of the Lord came again unto me, saying, Son of man, say unto the Prince of Tyrus, Thus saith the Lord God, because thine heart is lifted up, and thou hast said, I am a God. I sit in the seat of God, in the midst of the seas, yet thou art a man, and not God. Thou that set thine heart as the heart of God, but thou art wiser than Daniel. There is no secret that they can hide from thee. With thy wisdom and with thine understanding, thou hast gotten thee riches, and hast gotten gold and silver into thy treasures. He says, by thy great wisdom and by thy traffic hast thou increased thy riches, and thine heart is lifted up because of thy riches. And in this later chapter, he says, in verse 17, he says, he's been corrupted. You've lifted up because of your beauty. You've has corrupted that has corrupted thy wisdom by reason of thy brightness. I will cast thee to the ground. I will lay thee before kings, that they may behold thee. Verse 19 says, all they that know thee among the people, family, friends, shall be astonished at thee. Thou shalt be a terror, and never shalt thou be any more. And so this mindset concerning the Prince of Tyrus, he exalted himself concerning physical things. You know, and there's other individuals that have done that in the scriptures. In Isaiah chapter 3, the daughters of Jerusalem, they were exalted because of the jewels, the bracelets. They were haughty. There's other individuals and kings in the Bible also that did the same thing. But the idea is that this is a characteristic that God hates, is when you exalt yourself based off the physical, and then you blind yourself from the characteristics of Christ. You lose that, because it's now you see yourself, now you see the material, now you exalt yourself above what is written. And he says that he is God. That's what he said in his heart. He said he's not man. Verse 2, I'm a God. And that's the exaltation concerning materialistic things. You can't let it control you. So I just wanted to add that, because it can be. Let us be closing at this time, saints, with a prayer.